Now, 1-inch brush. So just a tiniest little bit of blue. You can wipe it on the paper towel if you get too much paint. And white, not much, very, very little. A little bit of red, not much. Prussian blue on its own is too strong of a blue for the sky that I want to paint. I want it to be fairly misty. And so that's what it's going to be, like that. Right up in here at the top, I'm going to literally just use overlapping strokes to paint in this soft lavender color, very white, very, very white. There's not a lot going on as far as contrast in the sky. I want it to be super, super hazy, pale, misty in the background. Now, I'm gonna grab more white. With that white, I'm gonna literally, just paint that right down in here. Very, 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 very soft, right up to my mountains. You can see why I sketched with blue. There we go. Lift away any of those big old brush hairs that fall out. Give it a quick blend with some dry paint crusties. And then, you may want to wipe, if you got a lot of paint, you can wipe it with a shop towel. If you don't have too much, then a little bit is not going to hurt. I don't have too much, so I'm going to leave it. Now I'm going to take a clean filbert brush right through some titanium white. You could tone that white with a little red, but I'm not going to, because it's gonna mix with the blue that's up there. So I've got plenty of paint in the brush. I'm gonna create some soft, tiny little clouds, not big, but tiny. And so I'm gonna start just using the corner of the brush, the edge of the brush. And again, tiny, not big. Tiny, but they're supposed to look far away and very pillowy, and there we go. So, I'm running out of paint, so I'll wipe that on a paper towel and then load it up again. If you are not getting white clouds and you're getting dark clouds, it's because you need to wipe that canvas off with a paper or the shop towel. Again, I don't have that much paint, but you might. And so just that could be a problem. Watch out for that. It's kind of pretty. Trying not to let these clouds, see, I often will paint quick in large clouds, and that's not what I'm trying to do today. So I've done that before in other lessons. This one is supposed to be soft, smaller clouds that just really make this painting feel like it's so, so far away, which is what I want. A lot of white there. Almost should have wiped the canvas, but no, it's okay. When you're working with subtle colors, it is so much harder than working with, if this was a sunset and you were doing neon orange and neon red, it'd be really, really easy. When you're mixing subtle colors, it is so much harder because the tiniest drop of paint changes the way the whole thing looks. Tiniest little drop. And that's why it's hard. Just want to take a second and let you know this video is really sponsored by our Patreon members. So if you're not a Patreon member, I highly suggest that you click the link in the description and at least check it out, because you can sign up for just 1 month and try it, see if you like it. I've got all kinds of full-length lessons on there depending on what tier you sign up for. We also do the occasional critique video where I'll go in and kind of show you some areas where you can improve your painting. You'll send in pictures of your painting. Just random things like that are a lot of fun. Monthly live streams, that's probably the most fun. You just get to hang out. You can chat in and ask questions, and I'll answer them live as I'm doing a painting. Honestly, Patreon is probably one of the most, if not the most fun part of this whole painting journey for me. It really has been Patreon. It's amazing because I get to interact with you guys. So I'm super thankful for all of you Patreon members. And if you're interested, you can click the link in the description. And all right, let's get back to the video. Now I'm going to take the same filbert brush. You could use a different brush. It doesn't matter. I'm going to take some sap green, blue, and red and white. So blue, red, white, and sap green. And with this color, I'm going to start down here. Yeah, because that's about the right value. I think as I go back, I need it to become more blue. But I'm going to tap in these little trees. And as I tap in these little trees, I'm just going to start at the bottom and then work up and shape them, allowing, because it kind of looks like a tree already, allowing the brush to create the shape, not having to force it. Filbert brush is going to be your very, very best brush for creating background bush trees. And this is going to divide our fields. Maybe this is farmland, and it certainly looks, oops, that's black. I really don't want black. There we go. That'll be fine. Anyway, what I was saying was farm fields, I'm going to go a little darker here at the bottom. You can darken the bottom, leave the top a little bit more atmosphere. Yeah, that'll work. Over here I've got a big old leaf tree, so we don't want to waste time. Big tree, so probably, yeah, should stop right there. I'm going to go ahead and we'll save this one. I'm going to draw this line out just to reestablish it, but I'm going to actually save that I don't want to do that right now. This color is too light to be doing that. What I can do is another row down here. Just real subtle. And this is an old worn out filbert brush. Actually, probably be easier with a new filbert brush, but this is the one I'm using for dark right now. Okay. And let me just almost went to black again. I'm not going black. Blue, green, red. Nice and dark. Nice and dark. Okay. Okay, I'm going to continue to paint these. Again, these trees should be fairly solid, fairly dark. It's important not to make them look spindly. I don't want to see through them. They need to be very solid, especially on the bottom. They need to be solid and not too tall or distinctive. Now, take some of that color and drag it to create the shadows. I'm transitioning a little purple, little blue, little red, you know, every color on the palette, basically, in your grass is fine. Burnt umber toward the bottom. Okay, now this down here is actually going to be different, so don't mess up your painting. Anyway, all I'm worried about is this section right here. There's quite a bit of texture, but there's not so much texture that it's just crazy. But there is texture. There is texture. I can see the texture. I cannot see the canvas, weave of the canvas through some of it, and some of it I can. It just depends on the area. Clean, dry fan brush. Brand new fan brush. Never used this one. That's nice. I'm going to start right here and begin to just ever so slightly touch. Touch it and push up. I'm going to try not to go down. If you go down, you get a different look. I'm going to try to just go up. So I know it looks like I'm going up and down, but I'm not. I'm going up, removing the brush from the canvas, lowering the brush, connecting, and then going up. Removing the brush, going down, connecting, and going up. Doesn't matter what it looks like I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. Worried about getting just that fluffy, soft edge. This is really, really good for farms, barns, anything like that. So that first edge is probably the most critical. From there on, all you got to do is just take and fluff, constantly wiping. I'm wiping it every few strokes. Oops, started going down. I don't want to go down. I only want to go up. Typically, I'll start in the lighter areas and work to the dark. That's just pretty easy. You also work from back to front. There we go. You can see how I'm just fluffing it. You don't want to go so far. You don't want your strokes to get too big. This is supposed to look like background stuff. As you come to the foreground, or the middle ground area, your strokes have become progressively larger. I'm going to do this side up here first. I'm going to start by tapping, tap, tap, tap. Now, make your tree smaller than you want. I'll say it again, make the tree smaller than you want, because I'm putting a little bit more yellow in it, because it will grow in the next step. It will get a lot bigger in the next step. I'm leaving sky holes and areas for the birds to fly through. I think that's appropriate. You don't have to, but I like it. The more sky holes you leave, typically, the more interesting it looks. To a point, obviously, you know. There we go. You want to make sure there's enough foliage that it looks good. Okay, so it's starting to look a little bonk, bonk, bonk. So what do? Change the shape. I sure did. I'm going to make it a little more solid without destroying my sky. A little more solid. Okay. So you can put this on any way you like. I mean, that's just one way. So many, many, many ways to do trees, and I teach a lot of different ways. Okay. Now, we're going to do fences, and I don't want to go too far. Let's go over to the other side. So we're coming over to this right side, and because it gives me time to think about how I want to do the rest of this. So let's just tap. I'm going to lighten that with some yellow. I think it's a little too dark. Some yellow ochre. I'm going to have to clean my palette here and reset it because it is getting dirty. But yeah, I'm just gonna tap on some of these colors. We'll have to highlight. It'll be a whole separate step for highlighting, but I'm just going to create this dark tree here on this corner. Yeah, there we go. And we'll leave some sky holes in that tree as well. I'm gonna take another color, some blue and red. Blue and red. So that makes a purple, plus a dirty brush. And we'll mix that in. A little white, not a lot, but enough that it doesn't, just because blue and red together will look black because it's so dark. So a little white to help lighten that up some. And we'll add that there. Very good. Now, we can actually take just some black and sap green, plus whatever mud is in your brush. And I just want to create a darkness right here. Boop, 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 right there. Okay, actually I'm going to take that, run that dark line all the way through. All the way through. And I'm going to clean my palette here in a second. So I'm just going to take my yellow ochre, blue, black, sap green, and I'm actually just setting myself up, just like I did before up there. Okay, just to get some dark that I can use. Back to my other colors, I left a little gap there. Just gonna fill that gap in. So basically make sure everything is covered with paint down here and looking good. Take the fan brush we were using earlier, and I'm just going to, I'll probably start down here, and just fluff that up, fluff it, and integrate it into the landscape. There we go. Big strokes. And then slightly smaller strokes as you work back, wiping the brush if it begins to clog with paint, which it will. There you go. We should be highlighting this because once I put the grass over, it'll be hard to highlight it. So let's take some white. You can see I've cleaned my palette and reset my colors that needed to be reset. So I've got some yellow ochre, brown, and white. Brown, of course, being burnt umber. Just a teeny tiny bit of light's gonna sneak through here, not much, because mostly it's gonna be shadow. A little bit of light will show through. Remember I wiped this area off. There's not much going on there. It's not a whole lot of anything. That's almost too much texture. Oils are forgiving. Take a little red. Actually more red. Kind of create a bit of a beautiful red color as it transitions. Almost want more. There we go. Transitioning from the dark to the light there. Just with my filbert brush. You can do it with a fan brush or with a 1/4 inch, 3/4, whatever. Just get it in. It's just a little bit of mud and dirt. Boom, there we go. Does it look okay? Yeah, it'll be fine. Yeah, okay, there we go. Boom. A little more yellow ochre. Boop, 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 just a little bit. Not a whole lot, and it's sort of smoothing it out there at the back. And then a purple made from blue, red, and white. Blue, red, and white. And I'm just going to sprinkle and smatter. And then I'm also going to go a little darker with my blue. Hit that purple again with a little darker purpley blue to change the flavor. You'll notice I am not laboring over here, mixing my colors perfectly. And I really haven't this whole painting. There we go. And just because it's not necessary. So then you just get a nice soft look. Now, let me look. Yeah, that'll be fine. If you want to highlight on it like a specific kind of some stones, or I'm just going to take a little more white and yellow, a lot of paint in the brush. You could use the detail round brush, probably stick better, but I'm just going to use this brush because it's in my hand. I'm just going to create some pebbles and stones and details here. Just create something that shows, hey, there's some detail in the foreground that maybe isn't so visible in the background. And then we're going to call it good because we don't need to go crazy, but we do want to show some texture there in that road. Yeah, it's starting to look more close up and a little more texture, a little more chunky in a good way. We'll take a filbert brush. I'm going to take just burnt umber. And, well, that's too easy. Let's take some red and blue to add to that as well. And no white. Red, blue, and burnt umber. Okay. Let me wipe some of that off. I don't really know how much paint I want. I'm not really gonna know till I begin to paint it. Okay, here we go. So I want that I'm just gonna say I want the tree. You can see why I would say that. I want that tree to come up. This is a fence post. I want the fence post to come up, and it's fairly wide. I'm on an 18 by 24 canvas. If you're using a smaller or bigger canvas, your size is gonna have to change, but there it is to my hand, you know, it's fairly large. It's maybe 7 inches tall. That's my guess. Okay, it's a square post. You could make this like a branch, you know what I mean? Sometimes people just cut logs and make the fence out of logs. That's cool. If you'd like to do that, that would be really, really nice as well. Personally, I'm just gonna do this. Okay, now while I'm painting this, while I'm doing this, I'm gonna take the same color. I'm gonna go ahead and add a tree trunk in here that comes off the painting like so. I'm not gonna have it go down because it'll conflict with that fence. I'm gonna bring it off the edge like so. And just very briefly, I'm gonna just draw in. You could use the detail round brush. If you're not confident, if you're not real confident with this brush, use the detail round brush because it will be a lot easier. But for the sake of the speed, and this is already in my hand, might as well use it, right? And if you can use it, why not? Otherwise, use the detail brush, but that's pretty. Got some action, you know, it's growing in. It's a little bit symmetrical, but it's not like perfectly symmetrical. You know what I mean? It's kind of pleasantly. I know the trees are framing it, but kind of in a pleasing, interesting way. So there you go. What am I doing now? Oh, let's go ahead. So I've got my next one goes boom like this, and boom like that, and then yeah, that one's gone. That one's covered. Okay. So those are my rails. It doesn't have to be perfect. And my next fence is going to be tall, breaks that section there up. More paint. Oh, you can tell how it wants to mud mix there. You can always take and wipe it with a shop towel if you need to, if you cannot get it to stick. I'm gonna do one. Am I doing one more? Hang on, let me step back a little before I decide if I'm doing one more. It's just art, it's not science. Let me go over here. Now we're gonna go ahead and paint some leaves out here. So to do that, I'm gonna take some sap green. I'm almost out, but that's okay. Some Hansa yellow, sap green, a little white, and yellow ochre are probably in there as well as a little teeny touch of blue. Okay, what do we not have in there? Not real bright, actually a little more blue. Not real bright. Don't know how much, I mean, maybe we should take off more of that paint. I guess we'll find out. But I'm gonna set my brush down and give it a little pull. Well, I've created a leaf. Do it a little brighter. I don't want it like super crazy bright because it's kind of shadowy. I don't want my leaves, I think I'm almost getting them too big there. So I'm gonna go just a little smaller, that's okay. But yeah, just kind of touching. Are those even showing? They are, they're just subtle. They're subtle. Okay. Yeah, there we go. A little of that mushing helps. See that? That does help. What does the mushing do? It helps. What the mushing does is it sort of integrates into the middle of the leaf a little better. So that kind of, I don't know. There. Oh, that's nice, especially because I'm gonna get a little highlight on that side. Okay, I'm starting to get a little too much paint on there. Let's go back over that one. Yeah. Yeah, that wiggle kind of helps. Just helps the paint to grab onto the canvas and it actually comes off a little better. Kind of do the wiggle and the stroke all at once. There we go. And then, of course, the important part is to wrap these very carefully around the post, right? Just a few, maybe. Now, the edge of these, I want to be good and not too messy because these are close. So there we go. Now we're starting to make the edges not so, we don't want it to look like that. We want it to look a little straighter, a little neater. I'm actually just gonna take some dark ones and go boom, boom with the dark. I'm gonna bring in this little cup of walnut oil, and I'm actually gonna just smoosh it onto the paint so it stays there because my palette is turned at an angle. It's hard to see. Looks like it's straight, but it's not. I'm gonna take my liner brush into the walnut oil. You can use linseed oil and it will work exactly the same. I just happen to like walnut oil. I'm not happy with my liner brush though. Let me just get that worked. You know what, if your liner brush is clumpy, so I've got it. So a little walnut oil and I'm just working it. Always make sure you're using like safe, non-toxic stuff when you're putting your, you see I got my hands in the paint. So you want to check your labels and stuff, make sure it's okay before you do that. Anyway, I'm going to take and begin to thin this. It takes about 3 brush loads of oil to 1 little pile of paint, and it just begins to run. A little more. Yeah, just begins to run. And we're actually gonna, here, let's go to the table and you can see it's gonna bead up. All you gotta do is go, just drag it across that paper towel and it kind of helps it not blob up here. And I'm just going to begin to paint in some of these beautiful blades of grass that are really quite bright. Kind of a lime yellow green, very bright. It's honestly as bright as I can go. There we go. I'm gonna do, this is not as bright as I can go because I'm out of paint. So let me do a few like this, and I got a little yellow ochre in it there. Let me do a few like this, and then I'm gonna brighten it up some, but it's fine to have these. It's fine to have these also. Going over the dark with my light, because that's creating a beautiful contrast zone. There we go. Again, I can go darker, I can go lighter. So we'll do that here in a minute, but I'm just gonna go long with these blades of grass, long. There we go. This is how I normally do fences. Not how I always done them, but now recently, in the last couple of years, this is how I've been doing them. And to me, it gives you such a good detail and such good texture. There we go. Stand back. Yeah, now we got something. This one here needs to be a little darker. Don't want too much paint. I love the top. I don't really want to mess it up. Just bring a couple of shots of that light, like right there. You know? Sharp enough. Kind of shadowy, kind of highlighted. And then let me grab that leftover purple, red, blue, and white. I kind of see some right there. I'm just going to mix up a little more right on top of that pile. Red, blue, and white. Obviously there's mud. And we'll purple that back side of that. Of course, every good fence post needs purple. There we go. Not bad. Yeah, a little purple on that one, a little purple there, and then a little purple on the back side of those, if it even shows, and a little highlight on those if it'll even show. Just gonna go like this. Boom. You can see why it's just easier to wait for the liner brush instead of trying to do this with a detail round. There we go. Okay, yeah, that's simple. I think those are a little sharp, so I'll just take and whoosh them with a clean detail brush. Now, let's take the detail round brush and some Hansa yellow and titanium white. And there is going to be some oil in it because there's oil everywhere on my palette. And I'm going to leaf the tree using my little overlapping strokes, little commas, X's, whatever you want to think of them as. But I'm just going to do this along the edge, really. I don't need to go crazy with it. And I don't really need to spend all day on it either. Just to show, hey, there's some light. I was trying to find my, I know I had, there it is right there. Everything's so mushy. I'm going to add a little oil to it to thin it down. Yeah, looking down. I've got a monitor down there I look at. It really helps me to see what in the world I'm doing. So for you at home, what you'll want to do is stand back about 6 feet away and you'll get a good look an overall feeling of what that painting should look like. From far away, you'll be able to see it better. And you'll see if something bothers you. You'll notice it from when you stand back. You won't notice it close up necessarily, but you will when you stand back. And that's why you stand back. A little bit more up in there. Do as little of this as you want. I don't think it needs to be crazy. I don't think you need a ton of it. There we go. Now it's a little dark, so let me just very briefly take some of my kind of mid-tone green, sap green, little purple, and I'm going to run that over some of this just to create some wild grass and just some, so it's not blank. You know, it's beginning to feel less, I think just a little less blank. I think I just didn't spend any time really developing this corner. I was so busy on the other places, you know, sometimes you just don't get around to it. Anyway, there it is. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Remember to subscribe if you're not already, and click the like button. That helps me out a lot. Stick around, watch a couple more videos, and stay inspired.